Just over 2 years in, looks like Peacock has about 18 million paid subscribers. You know, that doesn't sound like a lot compared to something like Netflix, but compared to Hulu with live TV and YouTube TV and some of these other high end services, that's not bad at all. They're getting started, and I think they're starting to find their identity. And we're going to take a look at what they've been doing with their app going into 2023 because it seems like it's really starting to take form. Just taking a look at the start, they've now organized it recently where the main menu is on the left side of the screen. This is something that modern apps have been doing. They are figuring out sort of how to get you watching things. You see, they've got a just added section so that you can find out what's new as far as their TV shows and movies. And they've also added other helpful little rows, to kind of get you into themes and things like that. Its live and upcoming section is helpful. Things are a little different at Peacock now than when it started. This year, you're going to be able to start watching live TV through the Peacock app if you pay for the $10 version. They have multiple movie and TV options that they did not have to begin with. And they've been expanding on things like their documentaries. Only on Peacock, of course, is going to be stuff that is exclusive to this service. It isn't that they're Peacock originals, but it's maybe things that are not available on any other service, like, now the most recent shows from NBC. The featured brands section is helpful because it gives you a feel for what are you actually paying for. You're paying for access to all of these different brands. And like I said, this isn't expansive as some things are, but you're able to zoom in and really find out what you can get for what you're paying for. The movie section has been expanding over time as it's become the primary home for Universal movies, such as, the recent Minions movie and others. It's not only Universal movies, as you see. There are some things like the Godfather series is playing on there right now, which is kind of a surprise. I thought Paramount would hold on to that a little tighter. It has a nice genre section so that you can find out, what's playing according to what you prefer to see. We'll jump in with sci-fi here and just kind of flip through. And you'll see that it's a mix of things that, look like kind of like sci-fi originals and things like that, mixed in with more high-end, movies from the theaters. It's a pretty healthy mix, I'd say. Jumping out of this, we'll take a look at something else. Let's see. Let's explore some more rows and see the new movies from theaters. Of course, this is dated. This is early January, so the movies listed under this section were in the theaters either over the summer or even in the last month or so. Look, you can watch The Rise of Gru at your own house and mess it up instead of going to the theater. Wear a suit and everything if you want, guys. Having a 4K section is helpful. There's still not nearly as much stuff as anybody would like to see in 4K. But if you've got that 4K TV and a 4K capable media player, and you can go wild with that. Looks like Peacock picked up on the fact that Adam Sandler was right popular on Netflix and decided, hey, well, we've got Adam Sandler stuff, let's use it. Its TV shows section has matured a lot. Now, keep in mind, the TV shows you have available on Peacock are all going to have to do with whether you've got the full, at least $4.99 subscription, or whether you've got Peacock for free. The $4.99 subscription, which is their first premium level, includes full seasons of most shows that Peacock advertises. If not full season, it's maybe a show that's within the season as it is. But it has a bunch of categories, just like the movies. You'll notice they have, people that stand out for whatever it is that the genre indicates. Something that you might notice as we're flipping through here is I think it's a little bit laggy. You notice that it doesn't seem to switch immediately. And if you switch through quickly, it can take Peacock a minute, or like 40, 20, 30 seconds to catch up with where you're going. And you'll see that if you flip through a lot of selections quickly where, it says Parks and Recreation when we're on Columbo. It shows, Friday Night Lights when we're on the featured channels section here. But in general, there are lots of things. The featured channels, for instance, links in with Peacock's free channels. Both their free channels and the channels that you get only as a paid subscriber. We'll talk a little bit more about the channels that you get as a paid subscriber later. But notice the titles here. Friends Turn Family. On Both Sides of the Law. Freezing Cold Cases below that. It isn't just saying crime. Freezing Cold Cases, indicates these are investigative shows. So some of them are going to be your straight up documentaries. Some of them are going to be like, Law and Order, Special Investigations, something like that. Office Politics is those whole families from your office, right? They aren't the family you live with, but they're the family you work with. And some folks around there work with people longer than they hang out with their family. For the Fans is a cool section because it breaks things down into collections, and that's new. I love this one. Dun dun for Law and Order, because that's the sound from Law and Order. But the For the Fans collections brings things together in real obvious ways. Like, look, it's all the Law and Order series. You can just dive in and, almost never come up for oxygen. There are a lot of episodes of Law and Order there. Do keep in mind the $4.99 subscription is ad-supported, as is the free version. For $9.99, you get on-demand content for free without ads. Or not for free, but you pay for it. Within these collections, they have just a whole group of Bravo. This is actually the same kind of selection that you get if you look into the Bravo branded section later on in the app. But if you're unaware, Bravo shows are all over Peacock. Peacock is kind of like the exclusive for Bravo content. And if you're not into Bravo, oh well, you don't have to watch it, right? But if you're into the kind of reality shows and, kind of things that they've got on Bravo, then Peacock is a real winner for you. In fact, between Peacock and Discovery Plus, you can have your fill of reality TV for about $12 or $13 a month, and you could almost call it a day if that's your main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. As you go on, you'll see, again, they just break things down. They start paying attention to what you watch. There was a row because you watched The Young Rock. And so it has, like other shows featuring like strong personalities or reminiscing. Got a whole section breakdown for sports with representations of sports from both the Olympic sports, that you find, usually only in the Olympics. NBC, because that's one of their big things, follows stuff like rugby and soccer and tennis and skating and things like that. So if you're into things like winter sports or ice skating or gymnastics, you're going to be able to find it in the sports selections for Peacock. And that's not something you see everywhere. It's a pretty large selection, but still includes big names like Notre Dame, Major League Baseball, of course Sunday Night Football through the NFL, and the Premier League Soccer. For wrestling fans, this is a big win, because for $4.99 you get the entire WWE catalog, and they've done a great job of organizing it over time. It didn't used to be so clear cut, but now they have everything broken down very easily by the various wrestling organizations that are owned by WWE now, that used to be independently run. It even breaks things down into the old wrestling territories that that they've got TV contracts for. So you get your World Class, Mid-South, AWA. If you're not a wrestling fan, all of this just sounds like blah 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 blah. And I'm sorry, If you are a wrestling fan, you might be like, oh shoot, didn't know that was out there. They've done a good job of pulling together all of this territorial stuff, and it can give you a real feel for the history of wrestling, even a history of a fake wrestling organization that WWE invented for just giggles. But in general, their section for professional wrestling, sports entertainment is really strong because you've got collections of every pay-per-view available from the WCW/NWA days, and you've got every WWE pay-per-view that's ever taken place, plus access to the current WWE events. So when they say it's live this weekend, you've got it live this weekend on Peacock. And so that is, I don't know. Like I said, as a wrestling fan, this is something that I really enjoy. I might be spending too much time on it right here, but it's good to know that it's out there for those who are looking for this content. The something recent that Peacock did was they picked up content from Hallmark, and boy was that a big deal. We'll show you where it is. There's a couple of ways to access it. We're going to go back to the home page and go into the movies. And there's a whole group of movies that they've got that are the Hallmark movies. All of your little, syrupy romances and Christmas movies. They're all mixed. They're mixed in here in their own row where you see other Peacock content. And as we keep clicking down, you'll see, like, when Rom Met Com, that's going to be more of your standard movies. But as we go down, Hallmark movies. And there they are. And you see that's mixed right in with the rest of Peacock's stuff, but it gets its own row. And not only does it have its own row, it's got its own full section within Peacock that we'll show you as we scroll down further. So there's lots of rows, and honestly, one of the things I might say is that I wish that the featured brands area was at the top of the screen so that it was easier to find. Because if you want to get into something like Hallmark, or for instance, you want to get into the Peacock originals, when you see them advertised, new Peacock original, new series only on Peacock, you might want to be able to get to that without having to search the whole website or the whole app. And in this case, you got to spend a little bit of time to get down to it. But once you get there, you've got access to everything that's offered, both the rows or, I always say skip to the end, and you've got the A to Z lists for any given category. And that goes for movies, TV shows, NBC originals, anything along those lines. But we're going to jump out of that and back up one more time. Another weakness about the app, you kind of hit back a lot to get out of things. Let's jump into the Hallmark section as we were talking about. In Hallmark, you'll see they have like highlighted movies along the top, like a lot of services do, highlighting certain categories. But then you'll see that there's live channels. And what you get with those live channels is the straight up live feed, the same exact feed you would have if you had Hallmark through your cable company. Pretty much the only other way to get Hallmark channels and movies this cheap, which is, like I said, starting at $4.99, is through that Friendly app. Friendly spelled Frndly. The difference between this and that is with Friendly, you get Hallmark, and then they're like, well, since you like Hallmark, you'd probably like all of these channels that are almost like Hallmark. With Peacock, you can get a bigger mix of content. There's nothing wrong with Friendly if you want, Hallmark and Great American Country and a number of other TV channels. Go for it. But that is Peacock, and I think that it's getting to be a better and better group of selections. And I really expect to see it grow in 2023, so we're going to keep a close eye on this. Peacock looks like it's becoming more of a hub for content than it is trying to become like a new original content behemoth like Netflix or HBO Max. It looks like it's trying to leverage their TV partners, leverage its experience, and make strategic purchases. So let's see what they keep doing. 18 million subscribers so far paid. It's not bad. Let's see if it grows with their new premium options that include the live TV channels. And keep an eye on it. As always, I'm Ryan Downey, the streaming advisor. Stream on, my friends.